Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. Welcome back to Coach Erik's instructional commentary. We're going to do another rack from the Turning Stone Classic final between Jason Shaw and Fyodor Gorst. This is rack number 2. This is Jason's first break of the match. He ended up winning the first game after a long safety battle, and you can see that in our second video. We went over what happened there. Remember, in this tournament, you're forced to break from the box. We didn't have any video of Fyodor racking the balls, but its opponent racks, and Jason went up and inspected the rack, and he's happy with how the rack's sitting here. He's chosen to break from the left side of the screen as you're looking at it, which is actually a little less common for a left-handed player to be breaking from that side. Usually they prefer the right-hand side of the screen, opposite for right-handers. Remember, in this tournament, the 1 is on the spot, and he's decided that the 1, 6, 9, 7 is frozen properly, and he likes how the 1, 3, 4, 7, 2 are frozen together. So he's targeting making the 4 here. He's playing a cut break, so he's playing the cue ball over between the middle diamond and the diamond above it. If he goes a little bit higher, closer to the side pocket, that's okay too. But at that point, he's trending the cue ball kind of towards the corner pocket. So he's specifically targeting the cue ball between the middle diamond and the diamond closest to the side pocket. He does that just perfectly here. You'll notice too, when you start cutting the break like this, it can lead into either the 1 pocketing in the side more often or going short of the side and then banking over the same corner you're breaking from. And that's exactly what happens here. This is just a textbook break. Dresses up the 1 very nicely over the corner pocket, and we're just going to go over how he runs the rack. You can see there, as we were talking about, the 1 comes over the corner nicely. So remember this. This might be a little more obvious to higher level players, but he's taking note of getting a half ball angle here. He's making sure he doesn't get straight on the 2. And this is a typical play that you want to play a lot in rotation. When you get half ball angles, you're allowing the cue ball to move more, and you can see he's getting within through the first 2 shots very quickly here. He knows that pattern right off heart. Looks like Jason's just fiddling around with the light a little bit here. The score markers, I've been to Turning so many times, the score markers are on top of the lights. Depending on how you move your balls over, lights can start swinging a little bit, but it just shows he's ultra focused, right? He's seeing, he's noticing that the lights are moving a little. This shot here is a little interesting. He's going to play the cue ball 1 or 2 rails across table. He wants to keep in mind that he wants to get off the rail on the 5. And the 5 is so close to the rail, there's probably very little chance that he can get inside the 5 and start drawing directly towards the middle of the table. Say he was playing position for the 9. He would more likely go 2 rails here because there wouldn't be as much of a risk of getting straight on the ball. You don't really want to target the cue ball between the 5 and the side pocket. Like if you were going to go 2 rails, you'd want to come more above the side pocket. There's a small disadvantage in bringing the cue ball above the side pocket because he's going to be further from the object ball. And the way he's coming into it, it's just going to lead into getting too straight too often. So what he does here, understand, it's not a typical play. I mean, he's hitting the left side rail, and he's floating across, call it about 4 feet across table. That's a play that you want to avoid. But I don't mind how he played it because he's guaranteeing himself a little more angle here, which is going to bring himself back into the middle for the 6 more, which is actually a pretty tough ball to pocket because it's further from the pocket that you'll be playing it into. The shot's lying a little thick as well. If it was lying any thinner than this, he'd play it over 2 rails for sure, but he decides to go 1 rail. So here's a standard 1 rail out play. Okay, so on this shot, he has about 4 options. One of the options is playing the 7 in the same pocket as the 6. Let's just rule that one out because the 7's a little too far from that pocket. There could be options there. He could just go 1, 2 rails, kind of float into position. He should get close to it if he plays that shot, but he's just avoiding it because the 7's a little further from that pocket. Never underestimate, the danger of shooting balls into pockets that are far from where the object ball is situated. The second shot is coming around a similar track to playing the 7 in the same pocket as the 6, but crossing it over more to where the cue ball is now. And the third shot would be just kind of playing a natural angle, straight high, maybe just a little bit of outside, and playing the 7 in the further side pocket. So let's talk about exactly why he shot the shot he shot. Let's start with shot number 1, where he could try to cross the cue ball over 2 rails to where he is right now. So that shot is a little off natural. He's going to have to play a little bit of right spin on the cue ball to make that happen. Even call it like 2 tips of right spin on the cue ball. There's actually a lot of room once he starts passing the 7. The cue ball can get in a decent area there, a decent box area where he's going to have a good shot a lot of the time. But he's just ruling that shot out because you would never want to spin a shot with 2 tips or more of spin if you were playing a pot this tough. And I want you guys to understand that, sure, this pot looks easy. And, you know, if it's the 9 and you're a decent player, you should expect to make it a massive percentage of the time. But once you start adding spin into this pot, understand that it is going to make you miss the ball 5% of the time more, maybe 10 at very most, but even call it like 3 to 5%. That's too much percentage to be giving up over the course of a match. Like, if you keep putting yourself in spots where you have just a little bit more chance to miss the ball the way you're hitting it, shot after shot, if you do that 10 times in a match, you're going to miss one of those balls once, almost for sure. So he's backing off that option. The second option is to kind of pocket weight the ball and play into the angle a little more. Play this 7 in the further side pocket. I believe he was pretty close to taking that option. The disadvantage of that shot, and once you guys listen to these videos, we'll talk about this type of feel, but talking about a feel speed from 1 to 10. So if he was to play that shot, call it he would hit it at about a 3, 3.5 at most. Again, the pot is a little bit too difficult to be wanting to hit this pot at that speed. Understand that if you're hitting pots at a speed between 2 and 3.5, maybe even high 3s, you want that to be an easy pot. And again, you know, this pot looks easy, and yes, it is easy, but it's difficult enough that if you don't play it the right way, you're going to miss it a little more often, right? So what he chose to do here is power draw the cue ball to the right side rail and play it out back to the middle for the 7 in the short pocket. Now, the advantage of this shot is that he can hit it at more, call it a 5 to 6 range. He can also hit it with outside, which would have been the same as the last 2 shots, but he's only hitting it with about a half tip of outside, which is much more advantageous than hitting it with 2 tips of spin like he would have had to if he came all the way around to where the cue ball is right now. He ends up almost missing the shot, but he makes it. And the way the cue ball was coming across, it was going to end up in the spot that it ended up a lot, like giving himself a half ball angle to move back towards the 8. If he would have drew it a little more, he would have got a little straighter on the 7 and just played straight over. And if you notice where the 6 enters the pocket, it enters it on the thin side. That's why he underdrew it a little bit. That's why he ended up getting a little more angle. So yeah, I mean, those are the 3, call it 4 options if you consider playing the 7 into the longer corner pocket. But really the 3 main options that he had, and that's why he shot this shot. He got a nice angle going up table on the 7. It's not as good as he would have liked ideally, but it's definitely makeable. See how he kind of just stunned that ball? Definitely playing that ball over to the second rail when you can. This shot here, he's going to target the thin part of the pocket, so the right part of the pocket is lying a little thick. If you pocket it in the center of the pocket, it's going to draw a little too much, and you're not going to get as much energy out of the cue ball. targeted the thin part of the pocket nicely, got perfect on the 9, and there's a nice textbook out from Jason. Yeah, again, the main shot in that rack was from the 6 to the 7, and just recognizing the different options he had and why he took that option. Hope you guys learned something. Coach Erik signing off. We'll talk to you soon.